Hi everyone, I'm the plant propagator and welcome to my channel. It is early June here in Southwest Florida and another sunny, really warm, humid day, which means the orchids are loving it, so I'm good with that. What I want to do today is share with you three different orchids, three different blooms, and they're all repeat bloomers. I've got some new bloomers coming, but they're not quite open yet. I'm pretty excited about those. But for right now, I want to focus in on three that I have. And these three they're getting kind of big. And what I'm probably going to have to do is divide them. They're in big pots. The pots they're falling over. They're all hanging. If they were sitting solid, they might be falling over. But they're getting a little big, so what I'm going to have to do is divide them. Maybe I've got a division video coming. They're not that unusual, any of these orchids. Some of them I think are a little bit unique, and there's one right here that we'll get to. This is amazing right here. I'll get to it in a little bit, but I'm like 6 inches away from it, and the fragrance is just phenomenal on this guy. And it just opened 2 days ago. So usually what happens with orchids is when they open. All right, I'll get to this in a little bit. What I want to do though is show you this one first. And this one isn't even that old, and I've shared this with you pretty recently. So this is Maikai, and this thing is just growing like crazy. I talk with some colleagues. Everyone has Maikai in this area. And I talk with colleagues that have this plant, and they say that theirs aren't blooming yet. So I don't know what's going on with this flower. Usually they bloom around, a little bit early, not quite this time of the year. But this thing is just blooming a little early. I did harvest a seed capsule off of this past week. There was one seed capsule left, and I don't know whether the seed capsule kind of threw off the timing of the flowering, but for whatever reason. But this plant is, it's heavy. It's in probably that's probably like an 8-inch pot, an old 8-inch pot. And the plant is heavy because of the amount of pseudobulbs that are on there. Each flower spike on this has, it looks like 7 flowers on it. Some of them are getting a little bit old. I've got some of them that aren't quite open yet. Usually when Maikais flower, they're pretty synchronous, so you have all of them open at the same time. But what I have on this thing is I have these that are even getting they're getting old, and some of the flowers are fading on this. I've got this bloom spike right here where you have half of the flowers that are open, and then I've got 2 more bloom spikes on this plant where they're not even close to open yet. So this is really interesting. It's really asynchronous, a nice plant. I like it. But it's getting really big. It is crawling over, I think you can see here, it's crawling over the edge of the pot, so that, I don't like it when that happens. It's not a problem. But what I'm seeing is that there's a lot of, it's growing well, it's putting on new pseudobulbs like crazy, but it's growing over the edge of the pot, and there's a lot of debris on the top of this that looks like it's degrading. So I'm probably, when it's done with this bloom, I'm probably going to have to take it out of this pot, and I'll probably make, I'll make 5 or 6 plants from this single plant. This grows so fast. I got this as a little tiny cutting maybe around 4 years ago, and this thing is just erupted, and it's doing extremely well. Anyway, so this is Maikai. The flowers on this, I should say, are it has a really nice, and this is I think this is a Nodosa hybrid, so it has that star-shaped flower, but lots with a Cattleya. So lots of spots on this thing. Really nice purple coloration. Really incredibly florific, and I think this is an awarded plant, not a high award from AOS, but it still is an awarded plant that I got from somebody that was divided, and a lot of people have this specific plant. When I set this down, I got to do it carefully because it's heavy, but the other thing is that because I have this thing growing on my fence, it tends to grow it's heavy on one side because it can't grow into the fence, so it grows away from the fence. This is right here, and I've shared this with you previously. This is, oh, geez, this is also a heavy plant, and this is clear stars, and this is another nodosa cross. Really, really nice plant. Again, another really floriferous plant. Right now it only has 4 open flowers on this. The one that has been open the longest has probably been open for maybe a couple of weeks. I had these 2 that opened this past week, and this opened a few days ago. And in addition to this, there are another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's another 7 flowers. So when this enters full bloom, if everything stays on there, are going to be 10 flowers on this. This is a big nodosa hybrid. And the nice thing about this about clear stars is that it's the upright growth. It's got just an incredible, I think I might have 9 new pseudobulbs coming out of it. So it's just another very vigorous plant. This doesn't need to be repotted yet. It's getting close to the edge of the pot. It's heavy, but because it's so big, it is. I might have to do something with it. I'm not sure how much longer this plant is going to stay in. It's a huge pot. That's like a 10-inch pot, and it's hanging on my fence with just not a really heavy-duty wire hanger. You know, a lot of times people, when you grow plants this size, they sit on benches, but I don't have any benches in my orchid growing space, so I have to rely on hanging my orchids. So anyway, clear stars. I should say the flowers on this thing, they're again, because they're a nodosa hybrid, it's a star-shaped flower, so it has very thin sepals and petals. The lip on this is a nice purple coloration with a white throat on it, and it is again very florific with a lot of new additional flowers coming out that haven't quite opened yet. But this plant seems to do really well for me. I have a colleague that gifted this plant to me, and his remaining plant is also doing pretty well. So it may be that they just like growing in this area. All right, the last plant that I want to share with you is right here. I'm not going to take it down. Well, I might, just to show you one little thing on it. But this is Maui Plum, and this is a hybrid that was generated, or maybe I should say that was regenerated by Fred Clark at Sunset Valley Orchids. And this is a great plant. When you look at the flower has some nice spotting, really dark burgundy petals and sepals with spotting. The lip and throat on this flower is just beautiful dark purple. So this is a wonderful plant. Previously, this has bloomed for me. All of my plants that I'm sharing with you today are repeat bloomers, and this has 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 flowers on this spike. Previously, it didn't have quite as many. The previous time that this plant was flowering, I brought it in my local orchid society. I sat it down on the table before I could put it on the table, and essentially drew a crowd. There were so many people looking at this. I don't know whether you can tell from the video that I show that the flowers are really thick. And so it indicates that this is either a triploid or a tetraploid flower. I contacted Fred and asked him how I can test this. And genetic tests, they're difficult to do on these, but he said if it's a triploid and you self the flower, you won't get any progeny from it. So I did that, and I selfed it, and there was nothing that I got from it. So it may be a triploid plant. I don't know for sure. It was just one simple test the last time I did it. I might do the same thing with this plant this time. But this is just an amazing flower. The problem with this is that I got to take it off. The problem with this plant is that I got it hanging up in my pergola, And the problem, let me get it out of here. I don't have it hanging here. I brought it down here so that I could show it to you. But the problem with it is this plant is just, it's just too big. I mean, this plant is, this is hanging right here. This is hanging in my pergola. And it's in lava stone and leca, like I tend to grow most of my Cattleyas. But it's growing well over the edge of the pot. The 3 new pseudobulbs that are growing, so this one, and the one that's blooming now are actually growing over the edge of the pot. So it's just, the plant is too big. Now what happens on these guys is they're going to get bigger, because if you look at this pot right here, on this side is where the old growth is, and this is where all the new growth, and it's just going to keep on growing out in this direction even more. So, and I can see the eyes that are here. Look at this, is huge. This pseudo, look how big this is at the base. So this is really, you know, this is pretty striking. But all the new, you know, all the root growth that went out of the pot, and you know, this is hanging up pretty high in my pergola, and that are underneath the pot. This is just going to be challenging for me to continue to grow at this level. It needs to go in a bigger pot. Maybe I'll have to find some other type of potting material or something else. But I don't even know where the weight is on this. Whether it's more, I think it's probably half the plant, and then half the pot, or probably more. It's probably 75% plant and 25% pot. And there's, like I said, there's lava stone and leca in there. Anyway, beautiful flower. And again, one of the nicest things about this flower is the fragrance on this is just incredible. So I really like this, you know, the flower, and you know, the fragrance on this thing. I like that I can get it to grow so well here. But the size of this plant is just, you know, it's got me thinking, okay, what am I going to do? Yikes, what am I going to do with this plant? And that's a little bit of a problem. All right, so I'll figure it out. I'm sure I'll find somebody else that is interested in this plant, because it's kind of beyond what I'm comfortable with. All right, so that's all I have for you today. There are a lot more plants in my collection that are coming into bloom. Today is my orchid watering today, so yay, watering and fertilizing, I should say. So I'll get to that in a little bit. I hope you enjoyed my video today of these 3 highlighted orchids. If you did and you want to keep on seeing them, it would help me out if you can click on like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you're not already a subscriber. All right, that's all I have for today. Again, I hope you enjoyed it, and happy propagating.